Welcome back, everyone. It's been a while, but welcome to episode 5, I think it is, of Every Mind Matters. Myself, Mikey Doak. Joined today a familiar face from a few weeks ago, Thomas Higgins.
Hmm.
Um, Thomas is what he came on again. He had a bit of a rough patch last month, so he has. But he's what he came on just basically just talk about how he's been feeling.
Hmm.
And it might help somebody that's maybe been going through similar themselves the last few months. So, Thomas, thanks for coming on, mate. How are you?
I'm good, man. Very well.
Good, well. How was so? Thomas as well. Also had a wee night last night at the pub. Let's just say, but he's
Yeah,
actually he's feeling all right. He's feeling okay. But so as I said, Thomas, it's just been a bit of a hard last month for you. Obviously mentioned you've had a wee breakdown in your relationship. How have you been coping since? How's things been?
um, yeah. So yeah, it's been a pretty tough month. Obviously we spoke about things prior on that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
What's happened in that? Yeah, it's been tough because obviously the relationship was quite a long term thing as well. So that's been quite tough going from transitioning to someone you've known for quite a long time and that back into uh, just change of routine and so on,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously things have changed so much. So yeah, it's been quite tough. It's just been quite good to recently distract myself a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
which is what I've been doing. I've kind of taken up painting in the house, which has been quite good. Uh, Painting's been something that seems to be my go-to thing right now. Just paint the walls,
Uh,
just paint everything.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's one of the things I've been doing quite recently. I helped my mum with the painting, and we've been doing like the back room and so on. So just giving a couple of things a tidy up. So I've been kind of distracting myself with other things in my life now. So
Mm-hmm.
um, so yeah, just kind of roughly just kept myself uh, fixated on other things right now, which has been quite good in that. But like I said, it has been a challenging month, but it's as what it is, I suppose. But yeah, you just the best thing you can do really is just kind of keep yourself motivated with other things in your life right now and
Yeah.
focus on others.
No, definitely, mate. And you mentioned also the painting. I'd rather probably watch that paint dry right now than watch my football team. But that's another story for another day. um,
I absolutely, man.
no, but as I say, also that's been a bit of a month now. And also, like you've mentioned, like how you've been coping with it. You've been doing the painting, and you're working still as well at ASDA. Have you
Mm.
been still working the last month there?
Yeah, still working roughly the same hours. Obviously working a rota schedule and that, but yeah, still pretty much doing the same hours. My work's been it's been a good distraction for me because
Mm-hmm.
when things had ended and that, I didn't want to go to work
Mm-hmm.
for the first first week or so. I'd actually tried to get cover for one of my shifts because I was in such a bad place. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to see people. I didn't want to even that way. You didn't want to have to put on a face because it's too exhausting just to do that. Just to be someone that's happy when you're not feeling that way at all.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of strength just sometimes to do that. And I felt like the best thing was to get realistically you want to take a week off work, but what I found was once I got to work, it distracted me. Speaking to other folk and being around other folk actually helped me. It was at the time it didn't feel like that, but it's once I done it, I felt a lot better. And I
Mm-hmm.
think work sometimes is a good thing because when you're sitting around the house staring at four walls, it's not a good thing either.
It's not good, mate. It's not good at all because that's what I learned when I was off. Obviously, when everything came ahead a few months ago, like even though I was off, like for the 3 weeks, it did help in a way. But at the same time,
Mm,
you think to yourself, right, I'm going back to work. Like I need to you need to try and think
mm,
that, but like you can't really talk about it in the middle of work. Do you know what I mean? But like you can talk about it behind like the scenes at
mm,
work, which is good. But the good thing is at work you don't have to talk about it because you'll be talking about other things such as like what you're doing and what you're doing delivery driving. You'll be talking to different customers each
yeah,
day. They'll be telling you about their story and you'll be telling about yours. So it's good to share just like isn't it that things and it totally distracts yourself from it. But
mm,
at the end of the day it's still in your mind and
mm,
as I say it'll take time but that's the important thing. Like time is the healer, isn't it? And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you've been working as well, and you mentioned the last episode as well. We done your exercising. Have you been keeping in that routine as well?
Yeah, the last the last month or so, I mean, I started, obviously, I went on a jog on Wednesdays. We spoke about earlier, and that was my anxiety was quite bad before it because I was, again, similar to trying to avoid people because I thought it was the best thing for me. I was, like I said, I was avoiding certain shops and everything and that, and just trying to get away from things. And the exercising, I did it on the Wednesday. Then after I went the run, I felt great. Once you've actually done it, the feeling of, you get that feeling of like success, and you
Yeah.
feel like you've done something productive. And once I've done it, I realised that, again, it's just anxiety kicking in and it's stopping you from doing the things that you can do. You're just holding yourself back a wee bit. So, but yeah, as I said in the first episode, but the exercising, it helps me a lot. It's not just for the it's not really about losing weight or just toning up. It's the feeling after you've done it, because it's an addiction in itself. Because I think we talked about, like, it kind of releases endorphins, and I suppose it helps restore the kind of balance, the chemical balance of your brain a wee bit. It just kind of evens things out, and it's a good feeling. Yeah, the exercising has been great. I think it's for me, it's like doing it, as I said, in moderation, and doing it in a, not having to do it every single day. Always give yourself that bit of leeway and say, look, you're tired today. Don't beat yourself up because you've not done some. I try not to do that, because you make yourself miserable if you're just going, well, I need to go out and run today. Give yourself rest. Have a pizza, have a takeaway now and again. Treat yourself. Don't fixate on it completely, because you end up, it's a bit like these diets you get where you get the wee chocolate cakes, but they're like 10% sugar in them or something. I'm like, I would rather wait 2 weeks and give myself a treat. I don't see the point in getting a drink. That's not a cake.
I know. It's just a heap of shit. It's a heap of shit, basically, isn't it?
Exactly.
No, but that's a good thing, and just you're keeping things like your
Mhm.
normal routine up as best as you can now. And
Yep.
obviously you're speaking to people, which is the main thing as well. Like,
Yeah.
you're staying with you stay with your mum, isn't it?
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. I'm still with my mum now. Yeah.
So how has she been? She been very supportive of you?
Oh, she's missed me.
Aye, that's it.
So she said. Well, she hasn't said that, but I think she did.
Uh, so
No, well, I think she's because I was away for quite a while. I think for her, it's a bit of a routine change as well. Because, as I said, I moved out during the COVID thing because she worked in care and that, and it was good for her to have some space as well. But I think, yeah, generally me and my mum got on very well. I think I told you that we've got a good relationship, and obviously there'll be days where she'll be irritated by me, which is, I don't blame her. But no, but I think it's just you're quite lucky if you've got a good relationship with your parents, because some people don't go with their parents whatsoever, and that's why some folk move out really early as well. But yeah, for the time being, everything's been quite good, and she's been very supportive as always. So
nah, that's the main thing as well. Obviously, you're speaking to her about things, and obviously you get your brother Chris as well. I know he's probably clued up to the telly playing Call of Duty right now.
you're
But
probably playing that right there.
probably, aye. But that's the main thing, isn't it? You just talk about it. Because
Mhm.
I'm still learning about the whole process as well. Like, I'm learning about how you deal with bad days. Like, you don't. I know me yourself have experienced it, but every day is like a learning day. It is like,
Mhm.
you're like, right, how can I adapt to this day? It's not gonna lie. The last couple of weeks, like, I've not really done much content, but it's just because like, I've not been feeling down. I've just been pure like cutting about, raging, sulking all the time. I feel like, and I think the big factor is in that is the drink. Like, I post on my channel the start of the week about it. Like, I gave up the drink, like,
Mhm.
so I have, and people go, he's probably just going to give up it, but I need to give it up for my own benefit as well
Yeah.
as other people's benefits. I'd rather be happy than going drinking a Saturday night, because I'd either like don't drink or I just drink, and I'm on medication as well, so that's doubles the effects of it.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd rather just not drink than drink, have a great night, and then the next week I'm feeling rotten about
Yeah.
myself. Because I spoke about this with my pal Liam, so this he's Liam McQuaid. He'll know me mentioning his name, and my other pal Ailey as well. I spoke about. It's just it just makes you doubt yourself and all, like drinking. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't it, like for about a week after it, you're like, Jesus, like if I said something to somebody and
Mhm.
like it's just
Yeah,
general stuff.
absolutely.
But I think that's the important thing about coping mechanisms, how we deal with things that are
Mhm.
ongoing just now. Like yourself, you're dealing with
Mhm.
also like break up in a relationship, and
Mhm.
I've been feeling good. I'm not gonna lie, but there's just been days and I'm just like the
Yeah.
podcast, like I'm doing the podcast. That's I feel as if I'm helping people with it.
Mhm.
But so as I said, you're working at the moment, and you're speaking with Chris, and how have you been feeling? But personally, if you've been in a, you mentioned you've been like the last 2 3 months. It's just been kind of
Mhm.
building up to this moment. You feel?
Um, yeah, I mean, my headspace has been, well, I was saying to you earlier on, the past couple of weeks it's been very cloudy and that, and I've just been kind of, like, I wouldn't use the word numb, but just been a
Mm-hmm.
bit just kind of in the middle. You just feel like you're going, I wouldn't say going through the motions, but kind of just trying to adjust a lot of things that just happened and trying to get through the initial phase of going through that. It's just trying to kind of, your whole life's kind of changed, and obviously it was a long term thing. So yeah, it's quite hard just to kind of go back into a new kind of, obviously back at my mum's and that, and it's obviously really nice to see my mum and that it's a lot of your life in that that's kind of it's now not there. So it's kind of, things have changed a lot. And but yeah, I mean, in general, like, over the past couple of months, it's been tough, and but there's a lot of things that obviously I could talk about and that I won't get into detail about. But yeah, I think right now I'm feeling okay in that. As I said, I've got a lot of supportive people around me, and I'm quite fortunate to have those people,
Mm-hmm.
including yourself. And yeah, I mean, it's good to have folk around you, and and yeah, it's one of these things, man. I think as time goes on, things do get better. It's just that I think for the last month or so, it's been pretty tough. But I think it's obviously I'm not the only person right now that's going through that as well, and I'm aware that this isn't, it's not all about yourself and that. There's another person involved in that, so it's
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's a difficult situation because of how you're feeling. You can't, and that other person is going through that too. So
Yeah.
it's difficult because that then you can't be the person there to comfort that person, and it's no nice feeling like
Yeah.
that. But at the same time, like I said, I've had to distract myself and focus on other things. It's been, as I said, it's been helpful. It's been good to have a routine, and it's good to have, like you said, exercise, and it's good to have
Mm-hmm.
a kind of set, like you said, having a goal or something to work towards, even if it is something like painting a wall or something like that. It's something to do, and it's something to kind of get yourself into routine. So yeah, absolutely, man. That's kind of summarising roughly how things have been. So
Mm-hmm. No, and that's the main thing. You just need to talk about it, isn't it? How you feel if you have a bad day, just talk. And I'm sure everyone watching just now that follows the page, if they wanted to give you maybe any advice or just give you support, they'll happily message you. Because I'll put Thomas's Instagram in the channel, in the channel in the bio below. Sorry of this video. But as I said, mentioned as well, we spoke about like previous things. How have you dealt with this differently to your past experience, like your previous setbacks in life?
um, I think in the past, one of the things as a person, I can be quite I think like yourself, I kind of overthink a lot of things and tend to fixate on things a lot and go, well, should I do this? Should I do that? Sometimes pushing things to the back of your mind can be the worst thing you can do, because I think that's dangerous, because things will come out. It comes out more of an explosion of emotions rather than it's happened. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But as I think I've dealt with things recently, there's things I wish I'd done differently. In hindsight, there's a lot of things I wish I'd done differently. And like I said, you feel like the worst person in the world after the whole initial thing happened, and you do feel like the worst person, and it's no nice. But
Mm-hmm.
I think for the the state, the frame of mind, and how I've been in that. The decisions that were made had to be made, and it's been tough, and it's not nice, and I think I dealt with it how I felt was best to deal with at the time. But as I said, in hindsight, yeah, there's a lot of things I wish I'd done differently. And, I think we all go through days like that and we sit and go, I wish we'd done that differently. I wish I'd approached this differently. And I wish I'd said that. But it's difficult because we're all, if you're emotionally involved in something, it can be very difficult to get yourself to think in that way. It's always easier from you've got outsiders will tell you things, but only when you're emotionally involved in anything, your vision can be a bit blobbed in some ways, if that makes sense. So
you are blinkered, aren't you? Like you like see something but you don't want to believe it, basically what's going on in the whole process. And it's not fair on the person as well. Like it's not fair on either of you if you spent like if the other person they're feeling like 100% for you but you're having doubts, it's just not fair because it will end up, will come to a time where things like come to fruition one time. It's going to be, I'm sure there's no badness at all between you. It's something that had to be done, and it's just learn from it and try and move on as best as you can. It will take time, but no.
Yeah, it was just. I think that's what made things more difficult because you just, the person is not a bad person, but you're just and at a different frame of mind. Maybe not in the right place, or just not. Things just weren't going anywhere, and that's when you realise that things can't go any further because you can't hold your life in a pause button and just expect folk just to just sit around. I mean, if things aren't going the way you want them to go, or if things aren't working, then you have to speak about that. And obviously, speaking's kind of the theme with this whole channel. It's talking about the things that are on your mind, and I think that we all do it every single day of our lives. We don't talk about things that are on our mind because we are protecting ourselves or protecting someone else, and that's kind of where things have been for me. I've spent a lot of my life trying to, try to make other folk happy, whereas not thinking about myself as much, which is exhausting in a lot of ways because that will drain you more than anything else will in your life. Just sitting there trying to please folk every day, it could be something like even if you were to get asked to do a shift and you can't do that shift or you don't have the mental space for that shift. You've got the option to say no to that shift, but you say yes because you feel like you've got to do it. Because if you don't, you feel like you're going to get looked on badly, or you're going to lose your job. But what I've learned probably in the last year or so, or just around about that time, is that being a people pleaser is never going to help your mental health. You're never going to get anywhere. You've got to sometimes just turn around and say, no, I can't do that, or this isn't working for me, or having that initiative to turn and say that it will feel at first. For me, it felt like kind of heart in the mouth kind of feeling. But when you do it, you feel proud of yourself a wee bit because you've turned around and said, like, no, I can't do that, or this isn't happening. And it's, I think that's the thing that drains me a lot, is because I did spend a lot of my time being a people pleaser. It's a lot of folk do it because I've seen a lot of folk in my circle of people that just try to just say yes to people because they feel that, as I said, they've got to give that impression that they don't want to say no because they feel like that person will look at them the same way again.
Yeah.
But you do need to have a selfish streak in your life where you look out for yourself, because at the end of the day, it's you. You've got to have respect for yourself sometimes, and that's the most important thing. Sometimes in life, I'm not saying be selfish all the time, but just sometimes take a moment and sit down and go, look, I need to focus on myself here. And that's it.
No, definitely. And I've noticed that recently myself as well. Like you're speaking to maybe someone, or you feel as if, no, I need to like. You don't want to feel as if you're forcing it and try to like please everyone, as you say, because at the end of the day, you have to be a bit more ruthless. See if you're feeling down, or you're just feeling bad thoughts, and touching on the thoughts as well. Like, how have your thoughts been? If you've been having any bad thoughts since everything's happened, if you feel as if you've maybe relapsed a bit or had a setback, like mentally.
I would say that how I've been feeling recently has been more like, as I said to you earlier, like think about the other person and think about how they're feeling. And you're sitting going, well, you wish you could do something, but you can't, and it's that feeling of power. You've got no power to do anything. You've just got to let the process go as it is right now, and just and every single day is a different day. But I'd say my mental frame of mind's been up and down. It was never going to be. I knew that I was going to be in not the best of frame of mind, and that. And obviously, I said, some of the decisions I've made and things I've done just haven't been. Like, as I said, in hindsight, you wish you'd approach things differently and been more transparent and just been more, just, as I said, when you're going through the motions and you're trying to push things to the back of your mind because you feel like you're helping folk by doing that, what you don't realise is that you're just making things 10, 20 times worse than you could have ever imagined they ever would be. That's my biggest regrets, is that I wish I just, as I said, been more transparent as a person. But as I said, you can go through that phase of just trying to be a people pleaser, and that carries into everything in your life, your job and relationships, friendships, everything. Eventually, though, these things come to the surface, and and being a people pleaser doesn't work. I mean, my mum, obviously, my mum's is a wee bit older than that as well, so she's got the life experience, and she's been through a lot of hardships, and she's been through a lot of things like relationships and a really bad marriage and stuff like that, and she's come at the end absolutely fine. And I think that you don't realise when you went through a bad period, you don't realise how, like, there's so many folk out there that went through the same thing as you. You're not alone in situations like this, but you feel it, and you feel, like I said, you feel like the worst person in the world. When you've done something like that, you just feel like you just feel like a terrible person. But the thing about it is that everyone's been through it in some way, and you do learn as you go along, and life experience counts for a lot. It's. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not old, but I'm not in my teens anymore. I'm not young. I'm a fully grown man now. I'm not a boy, so. Exactly. Let's just not put that on the channel,
though. No, definitely, and that's the thing. You've been, obviously, it wasn't going to be easy at all for you, but it's good. Like, you've tackled the situation as best as you can. Like you thought about how you were going to be feeling. Like, it's not as if it's, so you kind of prepared mentally for the thing, for what's happened. And I think for the main thing for you just now is just to go on Love Island. No, I'm go to Casa Amor and cause it.
I don't watch Love Island. Christopher watches it quite a bit, but I've never. It's no my kind of thing. I've heard it's good though, but I mean, I might watch it one day. You never know.
No, but it's all the seasons are on ITV Hub right now, so there's only about 6 seasons, 50 episodes.
I'll keep that in mind.
You get through. But no, it's good that you've prepared for that happening, because I feel as if you don't prepare for things and you just bottle up inside, you try not to think about it, that's when the problems start, isn't it? It's
I think it's easy it's easy to get into a bubble though. I think we all have kind of done it at some point at least. It's like your comfort or your kind of comfort zone you stay in a lot of time because it's easy, because your comfort zone is somewhere that same with when I first applied for a job and that, or trying to go for different jobs, you don't want to do it because you know what you can do. But I think quoting a famous wrestler you might know called Stone Cold Steve Austin, the quote was, "Playing it safe will get you shit in this life."
Aye.
And that's another quote that stuck with me, because it's true. If you play life safe, you'll get nowhere.
Stone Cold, what a man.
Yeah.
I love him, man, honestly.
Oh, he's brilliant. He's not as good as The Rock though, but he's quite good.
Nah, I know. Wish you can smell what Stone Cold's cooking.
Yeah.
No, but it's good. It is good. Shit does happen in life, basically, isn't it? And it's about out of similar experience yourself. Even if it's not been a relationship, it's been maybe somebody you've had an interest in. They don't feel the same way about it. It does bring you down, doesn't it? It's because that's when you start doubting yourself as well. you're like that. They don't like me, or what if I'd done something to annoy them and things like that. And when like you talk to them and like you don't get any like communication back, you start back, you're like that. I think that's my problem. Like I care too much. I
Yeah.
think it's not a bad thing, but I do care what other people think like a lot, and I think I need to. That's what I need to work on in myself at the moment.
Mm.
It's just basically be a bit more self care about like have a bit more self care, because if you don't, you have to look after yourself. That's the most important thing before, because if you don't love yourself, you're not going to love anybody else. You know what I mean? As
No,
if you
absolutely,
say,
man. You're saying there about folk, folk care what you care what folk think about you, and I think I was like you a lot when I was, even sometimes these days, you can, it depends, but what I would say though is that as I've got a bit older and my later 20s now, I just start to think that the only people that matter to me are the ones that matter stay. You know, when I've been through bad phases, I've obviously told you my close pal Corey. He's been a very supportive friend of me, and these are the type of people that you want in your life, because it's not about having numbers, it's not about having a big massive like group of folk coming up to you and saying how you're doing. You'll get the people asking how you're doing, but the ones that matter are there. And that's one thing I've learned as I've went along, that you do at some point in your life care what folk think of you.
yeah,
But the only people that I care about thinking of me is the ones that are the matter most to me.
yeah,
So see, outsiders and people, people that gossip and stuff like that, obviously you get that in a lot in society anyway, but these are the people that won't matter to you, because they're not going to matter tomorrow. So
no,
why let it
exactly,
why let it ruin your day?
yeah. It's true, isn't it? Like you try not letting them ruin their day, and it's nothing against them at all, but like
Mm,
it's obviously you're thinking like you're trying to you want to know how they feel about you,
yeah.
because if they feel something negative about you, then it's going to impact you. You'd rather probably hear it, and then you can solve the situation, isn't it? Because I feel
Yeah, I
some.
mean, well, see if my mum's annoyed at me, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
probably kind of a daily basis. If my mum was annoyed at me for something, that's something I'd want to tackle and sort out. Whereas some randomer who's got an issue with you for whatever reason, that wouldn't bother me, because
Mm-hmm.
as I said earlier on, a bit of emotionally involved, it's different, because as I said, you're trying. Some folk are trying to be something to try and impress folk that they don't care about, or they don't know, or
Mm-hmm.
it's draining, man. And it's, as you said yourself, a bit like you do care what folk think, and it will drain you. And some days there'll be days where you'll tell them, what, I don't care, and then there'll be days you'll be like, you do. Sometimes you'll do what I used to do, is where you'll go, oh, I don't care what folk think, but you do, you really do care.
Yeah.
Um, and it took me a long time to start to think that it doesn't matter what folk think, who cares? It's, as I said, I'm a very fortunate person. I've compared, I've got a great bro. I've got my mum, who I'm really close with as well, and I've got a good friends circle, that have been very supportive of me as well. So I consider myself quite fortunate in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people that don't have support. There's some folk who are on the lonesome, and they've got
Yeah.
no one to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, people like yourself, be able to sit and talk to yourself about things, and having a platform to talk about things as well is also really good, because it's, as you said yourself, when you started this, you wanted to do it because it was going to benefit other people.
Definitely.
And that's exactly what I think it has done, because not just benefit other people, but benefit yourself, because you're learning from different lives. So people, different backgrounds, different experiences. It helps everyone in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's some folk might say that it's negativity, because it's talking about a kind of like sensitive subject, but it's not, because it's the ultimately what it does become is a positive, because it helps someone grow in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me is a major positive. It might not seem like that to some folk, but it definitely is, especially with as I said, the channel works and that. But yeah, I don't actually I don't know if we could have jumped off that subject there, but yeah, that's what I'm
No,
like.
it is true. It is true. But Tom, like you do care what other people think about you, don't you? It's so like see people go, I don't give a what they think about me, but deep down you do. You're lying to yourself if you don't. that's what. Obviously, we've all got different opinions on like
Yeah.
you don't care about what think of you and you do care, but I do. I feel as if people did care about you, like I know people, they've got their own things going on in life and they're busy and they've got their own worries at all. But I think if someone like actual cared about you, then they would drop you a wee like message now and again,
Yeah.
just asking how you are and check in. Like, and it's nothing bad at all. But when people, I felt when I made this page, like there is a lot of people that have doing it for me, and I'm very grateful for that. But at the same time, I feel as if folk just message me like just to feel good about themselves. I know that's maybe I might be wrong in saying that, but it's true. Like, I feel as if people only care if something bad happened to you.
Mm-hmm. No, I
That's
know. I completely understand what you're saying, mate. 100% understand where you're coming
like the only like I had folk I didn't speak to for like 3 years or 3 4 years, obvious reasons.
from.
About 2 years as well. Like no, sorry, 3 or 4 years ago. I'm losing my track of years we're in there. But I hope you're alright and all that. But then I'm like to myself, cheers. But at the same time, I'm thinking, like, maybe you're last year for like, you didn't care about me 3 4 years ago. So,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely, man.
It's at the end of the day, you've got to realise the impact it's going to have on folk like myself or you. Like, just as folk watching this and all, they're probably thinking, what's he talking about? I'm trying to get a point across, and I'm not really good at explaining it. Sunday, so it is. So Sunday, it's been a long week, but it is true. But isn't it like if folk cared, they would drop you a wee message now and again. That's the point I'm trying.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Well,
Why I feel like.
sorry, my dog's just decided to come in here. This is I'll just this is Max here.
Get involved.
I'm just keeping him here in case he jumps up the bed and knocks his phone down. But yeah, on what you're saying there about these type of people, one of the things you probably noticed a while ago, there was, and I don't know if it's still much a thing now, but it was the whole "it's okay not to be okay" thing. There was a lot. There was actually someone I used to work with that had the outlook that depression was a case of you rolled up your sleeves and you roll up your sleeves and deal with it, pretty much. That was that person's outlook. I'm not obviously going to name the person, but that was their outlook on depression, anxiety, and the whole mental health thing in general. So this same person had shared on Facebook, "It's okay not to be okay," and I read that and I get angry because I'm like, you know that it's what you're talking about is bandwagon jumpers that jump on the bandwagon as soon as someone's passed away, which is obviously a tragic situation, but they've passed away, and then this person shares it on Facebook to get some likes on Facebook because, you know, it's this is a person they would never have spoken to in a social outing, they would have spoken in the street, and but because they're no longer here, they're now relevant, and that for me is, it's not right that you would ever, like, obviously you can show your condolences, you can be respectful, but I do see where you're coming from, that these same people would never, they wouldn't even talk to you if they seen you, and you'd be lucky to get a hello at them. But as soon as, you know, that kind of thing comes up, they're all kind of pally with you. So no, I completely understand where you're coming from. That there's a lot of that. I think social media is guilty of it a lot. You see
Definitely.
it. So yeah, completely understand where you're coming from that, mate.
Yep, and that's the impact as well that has on people. Like, like me or you can message like one of our friends, and then they don't talk to you, like they don't reply at all, and then that's when you do care. When if it's your close friends or like that, like I know they've got their own problems, but like, do they know like maybe drop a wee message now and again to us, or
just check up on you?
Yeah, and that's what the whole aim of this. It doesn't matter if it's relationships, like what events have happened. Like your friend should be texting you if you've had a breakdown, and obviously, your relationship, Thomas. Like, how have your friends been? Have they been messaging and checking up on you regarding that?
One of the things that, as I said to you earlier, Corey, as I said to you, one of my friends, he's been really supportive, and we've had obviously we've spoken that, and he's been very helpful as he always has been. And like I said, I'm quite fortunate, that I've had friends that are supportive, and you'll get the ones that are, that'll say to you like, how you doing, but they're maybe not interested as much as they make out. But that's another subject for another day. But
yeah,
in general, as I said, I'm very, I don't want to use the word blessed, but I feel quite fortunate. I've got folk like that around me. And yeah, as I said, it's some people don't have that. I think that I've heard of stories where people have been in a scenario where they've got their parents aren't with them anymore. They're all by themselves. So they went through a really bad situation and they've got no one to talk to. They've just got themselves, and that's a loneliness you don't want to feel in life. And I think, as I said, I'm very lucky to have that.
definitely, and that's the whole stigma. But isn't it like we should be checking up on our friends more often? Like we shouldn't only be checking up on them if something happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, that's. Sorry, what you saying, mate?
No, it's just it doesn't matter. Like even if you're friends with them or like you know what they've been going through, like I still try and check up on people like just now and again. Also, I'm not going to pester them every day. How you doing today? Blah blah blah. It's just it's very important because I think when you realise this, like friendships as well, and relationships, when you realise the impact these events have on people, like for you, like you're doing the right talking about it, like but if it's been a breakdown in a relationship or whatever, like breakdown of friendship, it could have an impact on someone and it could really lead them down a route with that same risk channel. I don't want to lead folk getting to a route that I was at. Basically how it all started. Like one day I was just dead honest about folks, see the week leading up to everything what happened with myself a few months ago. But I was just telling everyone what I thought because I thought I'm not going to be here anymore. Like so nobody cares. And but then when that happened, like when I got my phone back, like a few days after it, folks seemed to care. But I'm like, why did they not care last week? Like as I say, this is all stigma. They should be caring. Like I'm not saying care 24/7, but it should be caring no matter what about your close friends, family. Just check up on them now and again. Don't check up if something happens. Like, and it's
Absolutely, man.
It's all stigma. And I know we're living in a world now that's a bit unprecedented. I know things are getting better, but just talk. Like I can't emphasise it enough because again, I saw the other day we've lost on social media someone I follow. We lost another young life to suicide just because of a breakdown in a relationship. And this is why today I'm very grateful, appreciate that you've come on, Thomas. Like we spoke about this. Like people go, relationship, there's plenty more fish in the sea. We all are guilty for saying it, aren't we? To like our friends.
Someone said at one point,
plenty more fish in it if it's like a relationship. But when they're not in that, they don't see it. So that's why I see when I hear about like yourself, I try and put myself in your shoes and go through like my life experiences, what I've suffered. Like I've only had one relationship previously, but I try and like, put myself in your shoes and how I felt after that happened, and go right, how can I help tackle like his thoughts and just how he's feeling that. And basically, it's like your coping mechanisms, isn't it? Like what would you normally do if you weren't like with your friend or like, girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever? Like it's just very important to keep your mind occupied at all times because I've been guilty recently of it. Like I was speaking to my pal Whaley like, last week. I was like, I'm pure like paranoid about all this. Like one of my pals, like I haven't heard of him in ages, and I'm like, Jesus, if something happened, like if I said something to her that's just a heart stroke, it's easier said than done. I know.
Yeah.
You get their own problems, as I've emphasised about a million times already in this video, about own problems. But it is true. Like just now and again, a wee message. It doesn't harm at all. It's nothing bad. Just to drop a wee message saying how you doing. Hope you're well. That's all it has to be. It doesn't have to be a full blown conversation. Just a wee check-in, isn't it? It's
absolutely, man. I can understand why you keep saying it because it's true. I think it doesn't have to be an in-depth conversation. It's just to know someone's there, because there's a lot of people that will say that in life I can be myself and that, but we're designed to talk to other people and interact with other folk. We're not meant to sit. I mean, I'm not saying you can't have your kind of alone time, but I think folk understand what I'm meaning. It's we gravitate towards people, we're around people, we want to be we want to feel wanted in some kind of capacity. We want to have relationships, friendships, people around us that make us feel good about ourselves, and that's what we all want in life. We all want to have some kind of fulfillment, kind of. So yeah, I mean, it's just good to have, as I said, good friends and people around you that check up on you now and again. As you said, you don't need to message someone every single day and go, "Are you okay this morning?" Because that's more of a stalker than it is a friend.
I know.
But on a serious subject, yeah, I agree with you, mate. I think it's good to have someone around you that's like that. And as I said earlier on, I'm fortunate to have people like that. And
Yeah.
And like I met you by chance, so it's kind of like things just happen for a reason, It's
I know.
And it's the impact you can have on people, because, like I said, you've had an impact on me, and I hope I've had some kind of impact on you. And that's it's good that, because it helps you grow as a person in some way, even if it's only a small bit. So
And I think it's good as well. We can relate our experiences to each other, like regarding like friendships and relationships. You've been through like similar like friendships to myself, but relationships also. Like, or even if you feel like been speaking to a girl or whatever, and like you've experienced similar to me, like you feel as if, Jesus, I've put in all this effort, and I just feel as if like then that's when the paranoia. I think that's the word that it's probably the best word I can. That's when paranoia and anxiety it starts kicking in. Like you go, Jesus, like they don't like me. They're getting fed up of me. They don't want to talk to me. All that rubbish. But at the end of the day, you need to realise yourself. So say they get their own issues, but one message.
Yeah, what you're saying there was about the just so it's not misinterpreted in case someone watches it, but
I know. I don't. And as well, before I put this, like if anybody watches it, I don't want to. I'm not getting digs at Andy. I'm just talking about like past experiences. Like it's nothing against them. I love yous all. Like
no, what I was going to say was that obviously saying my past. That's that wasn't recent. Just in case anyone misinterprets that. In terms of like put a lot. You say put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah.
I was just on that side of things. Like that wasn't the recent. That was my recent breakup. That was in the past. But just thought I'd just put that in there just in case it just gets misinterpreted. And also I know what you're talking about. You're talking about obviously yourself, where you've put in a lot into something and you've got nothing back out of it.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of your time in that. And
it's a bit in the nuts. It's a bit in the nuts. That's the best way to put it, isn't it? It's
absolutely, man.
Aye, and it's nothing on their part at all. It's just the way you feel. You need to try and deal with that emotion. Like, also, they maybe don't want to. They're trying to find a way not to like hurt you and make you upset, and because they care about you, they do. Everyone cares about each other, like in some form. And this is what made me realise folk do care. Like people get in touch with the channel, like total strangers, like and reached out to me about everything like I went through, and they've even shared their own experiences that they've not shared with anyone in their family or friends, like which makes me like good. They can count on me anytime they need me.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
That the whole impact of this episode is we just need to realise the impact of breakdowns of friendships and relationships, the impact mentally it's going to have like, after the event, isn't it? Because people can go, mind off things or do things, but at the end of the day, they could be bottling up. They could just be not want to open up about it, and that's when it could reach breaking point for something. I don't want anyone to feel like that at all. Like, and see if there's two people in a relationship and both of them aren't like in mentally in a good place. That's when you reach to me about it. I'm not saying like, but just talk to me, like, and I can try and help people through it. Like, honestly, like, I'm not saying I'm a therapist or anything like that at all, but just talk to me or someone about it and work on it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But
I think that what was I going to say there? Sorry, I think relationships in general, a lot of people, like sometimes relationships break down and there's no specifics that have caused it. There's not a specific reason. I think in the first episode I spoke about my mum's relationship, my dad, quite an abusive person, manipulative person, controlling, pretty much all the above. That was just him. And obviously, if a relationship like that broke down, you turn around and go, well, that's kind of obvious that was not going to work because he was an aggressive person, he wasn't a nice person, and fair enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes relationships break down because they're just simply not working for whatever reason, just something isn't right. And I have spoke to people about it, and some people have questioned that, and some people have said that they don't understand that, they don't understand this. But at the end of the day, these people aren't emotionally involved in something, and if they're not emotionally involved, it's very hard to give that person some kind of advice that's going to help better them in some way. Because I've given advice to my friends in the past about relationships, and again, as I said to you, you'll give it the best advice ever. You'll be like the Jeremy McKell show, but you'll be able to take the advice yourself. And that's before me, because it's very, you're telling people what's logical to you, but when you're emotionally involved, but all logic sometimes gets thrown out the window.
It does.
And your mindset you don't think that way. You see things from a kind of, say, tinted specs. You just don't have the same perspective, but everyone around you feel like they can see it. If that makes sense, everyone around you you can get the vibes from them that they think something's not right, but you just, as I said, you bury your head in the sand and you just mosey on with your life, and it's what folk do. But like you said, relationships, and they can be really, really traumatic on a person. They can affect them a lot. Folks sometimes are very passive about it. If you watch a sitcom or any kind of TV show, you might be mistaken you'll be forgiven for thinking that it's just like, oh well, it's just another day at the office and just move on. And to be fair, you do have to live your life again. Your life, the world doesn't stop because of something, a certain tragic incident or a breakdown of something. That the life does go on. We have to keep going and have a daily routine and going about things, because, as I say, the show goes on. You don't just stop doing what you're doing.
That's like the Wolf of Wall Street, isn't it? The show goes on.
Oh, I remember that. I've not seen that. I've not seen that film. I've seen the trailers for. Seen a couple of scenes in it.
It's on Netflix, I think, still. Brilliant. What a film.
He's a good actor, isn't it, too?
Aye, me and my mate Sean Block, he's quite big on his films and music. Shout out to him. I might get him on soon. see what he can use. But no, as I say, like, that is true, isn't it? It's that people might disagree with the opinions that I've had in this episode, but it's totally fine. We're not all going to agree on everything. It's true, people might go, oh, he was a bit much what he said, or whatever. Like, if you can help me, you can educate me on friendship breakdowns and friendships and relationships, how you deal with it after it, the events, isn't it? But it's true. So
I was just saying, mate, I see, like, obviously when you start tackling certain subjects, some of the comments you might make might be controversial to some people, because it's a broad spectrum you're entering into. You start talking about anything mental health related, you start talking about these type of issues, and that you can, there might be someone out there that might misinterpret it a certain way, and that I can understand that, because it's the same in social media. A lot of things get misinterpreted as well. But when you're talking about this kind of thing, there's a big broad spectrum of folk out there that could be watching it and might take something the wrong way. But obviously, that's the idea of the channel, to talk. And if someone feels that something's they want to speak about, they're obviously perfectly. You've got the platform to go and express your feelings. Well, that positive or negative, but obviously you've got that platform to speak. So I think a lot of folk will take things how they want to take it sometimes, but you should never be scared to tackle certain scenarios or talk about things, because you'll never get anywhere. You have to speak about the problems and the depth of things. So
and it's all a mindset thing with relationships, friendships, and breakdown. Like, it's all in your mind, isn't it? You're expressing how you are feeling. It's true. But to say, and if anyone had any positive or negative comments about it, about what we've discussed today, there's nothing wrong with that either. Like, any comments, fine. As long as it's not personal. Like, I'll happily accept constructive criticism if people weren't happy in their opinion I've gave, but only I don't mind constructive criticism, but I think when it gets personal, I feel as if that I think is a bit too much. But it's just you probably know yourself that people that have maybe watched this and what I've gave an opinion on today, they might not agree with it. Totally fine. you know what I mean? Like, we're all, if we all agreed with the same thing, like the same thing, the world would be a very boring place.
Yeah, oh, exactly. I mean, it goes into the whole people pleasing again. Like, we'd all be doing the same thing just to make everyone else happy. I agree with you on that. See what you're saying about constructive criticism. That you can have an opinion on something without being nasty. You don't have to, you know. I follow that every mind matters. That's your channel.
Who's that
Who's that guy? You ever watched the Celtic State of Mind podcast?
Was that Bob John Dykes or?
Bob John Dykes, yeah. And shout out to Bob John Dykes and Celtic State of Mind. It's a really good podcast and that. And they used to get a lot of one of the things I liked about that podcast is they talked about the issues of the core. Obviously, they're passionate about their club, which is obviously getting off the subject, but they were passionate about their club and that. And they used to I used to read the comments. There used to be a lot of abusive comments from people, and people would be personal and go to the next level pretty much of going by, I don't agree with you, to I'm going to start personally insulting you and start, and I used to be a lot of these comments. They did get blocked in that, but those guys on that channel were just talking about something they're passionate about. And it's the same thing here, talking about something that you're passionate about because you care about it. So it's the same thing altogether. And I think that, as I said, you should, if folk want to give you criticism or constructive criticism and want to have an opinion, and you're allowed to do that because that's social media. Everyone's got a voice now. So yeah, I completely agree with that, mate, 100%.
Definitely. Like, as I say as well, like I get people say I'm a people pleaser, like, but I think sometimes I can maybe work on that. Sometimes that could maybe be an issue, like like, because you can't, like, I'm not a people pleaser because no one can please everyone. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like, there's always going to be that. It could be. I'm trying to think of a famous person. That could be The Rock. Everyone loves him, but there could be one person that doesn't tolerate him at all. Yep. But it's true, isn't it? Like, no one's a people pleaser. They seem to go, he's a people pleaser. No, he's not, because like there's going to be one person out there that
doesn't like him,
that doesn't please them. But as I say, there's nothing wrong with it. But like the constructive criticism, just touching on that again, there's nothing wrong with it if it's negative. But people have to realise the comments that they make on it, if it is personal, the impact it could have on somebody.
Yeah.
And that's the whole issue. Like, I know, as I say, I'm going off a bit off topic here. It could be talking, like, giving an opinion in a relationship that's negative, but it could be personal about it. That's when they have to realise, right, that could have an impact on somebody, and then if something happened to someone, they feel guilty about it. No one in life should feel guilty at all. That's like, they shouldn't. I don't. But we've all felt guilty before about something that's happened in our lives, isn't it? But just as I say, I'm glad you've shared your experience today. I know it's obviously been a tough few weeks for you and the past couple of months for you, but hopefully things are looking up in the future. Just keep on doing what you're doing, Thomas, isn't it?
I think, like you said that yourself, man. It's just a bit, just kind of like you say, get a routine and just doing things as you can. I mean, it has been tough, but like I said, a lot of folk are going through a lot of similar scenarios. It's obviously I've not today spoken in depth about a lot of things. That's because I genuinely couldn't right now talk about a lot of things in depth, but obviously it has to be referenced in some way because it's been a big part of the last month of my life. And it's obviously it's been a big transition for me, and but as I think a lot of people out there, there's a lot of people out there in relationships and have been going through a lot of situations in life where it becomes routine and habit, and they don't talk because you go through the motions every day of your life, and every second day you just go, well, that's fine, just keep going. But I think there's got to come a point, because I think the theme of this would be that talking's healthy, and it is healthy in some way. Sometimes it's going to be painful, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to really hurt, but it's sometimes it's got to, because I think that's why a lot of people avoid it. We avoid situations that we think it's going to hurt us or cause us some type of distress, but sometimes these kind of scenarios end up becoming a more positive in your life. You sometimes just have to speak, and well, that be for the better, for the worse, you just have to talk. And you have to sometimes just have that courage to talk about it sometimes. And I've over the last couple of months probably thought to myself I couldn't talk about things, but you have to find that party that speaks, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's just do things as they come to you, and just you'll know deep down how you feel. And sometimes you just know you'll have to approach it in your own way. But what I would say is don't wait forever. So
exactly, you hit the nail on the head there. Mr. Higgins is the best looking Higgins in the household and all. Yeah.
Thank you, I agree.
No, Chris does to watch this episode of Bootmen and Nuts. No, I know, I think I better. But no, it's just important, like, if you feel something towards somebody, like in a relationship, where it could be a friendship or like a breakdown, it's just important to share your feelings with them, because it will help you as well as them. Because if you don't share something with someone, just the slightest thing, if something's bugging you between like two friends or anything, or a couple, it's just important to share it, because if you don't share it, then that's when that's when it's just going to basically just, I'm trying to think, it's just going to basically go to war.
But festers, that's the thing, is when you're keeping things in general, it festers, and
it does.
All you're doing is you're delaying the inevitable, because eventually things do come to surface. It's just one of those things, man, where you'll end up, it'll come out in some way. Well, you talked earlier on about alcohol. And one of the things you're talking about, coping mechanisms, there's healthy coping mechanisms, and then there's unhealthy coping mechanisms. And alcohol would definitely be under, for me anyway, it would be under an unhealthy coping mechanism, because what you're doing is just having temporary relief over a night. That's it. But the next day, what you're doing is just going in a circle, essentially. And it's insanity itself, because you're just doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results to happen. But all you're doing is just, I think you're just triggering the emotions every couple of weeks. But you're not bettering yourself. You're not talking about it. You're doing it in the wrong. You say you're doing it the wrong way, but alcohol's, as we know, as a seltzer-depressant. And again, there's people getting drink. I was out last night, and that's probably why I'm not looking my freshest today. But it's just, it's we good sometimes to get away from a life, because life's, it's stressful.
It's the human demands of life, isn't it? Like, we put too much pressure on ourselves and all at times. I just referenced a song to one of my favourite artists there, Amy McDonald. That's my dream guest, Amy McDonald. Forget Old Boys, get her on. I want a ticket for a live show. But no, it's true. Like, we do put too much pressure on ourselves. We just need to take a step back at times, and if something's bothering us, we just need to share it and don't let it fester, as you say. Shout
out to your sister, because she did she told me about a book called, what's the name of it again? It's in our room right now, so I'm not going to run and get it, but it said that life, when you slow things down. So it's talking about you just take a step back and just look at things and that. And I've read a wee bit of the book as well. It's really insightful, and that. And it's just, I'm not much of a reader, to be honest with you, but it was good just to sit and just read something. It gives you perspective and things. It does help, and it's true, because if you just stop, like when I'm at work, sometimes I tend to, I try to jump ahead. I'll try to do 100 things at once, and what you don't realise is that it causes you stress, but you don't see things, you don't think proper from a good, you don't sit and plan things out, you just end up you're just going in a circle. So sometimes when you just sit back and go, right, what am I going to do to deal with this? What's the issue? How am I going to approach this? And sometimes that could be the best thing, is to sit back and go, like, this is the issues I've got right now, I need to talk about these problems, and take them a step-by-step basis. Because some people go, I've got 10 problems here, and then they'll go, I've got so many to deal with it, but they never ever attack any of them. They just start, they don't want to start anyway. Same like going to like uni or something. Like, some people don't go to college because they go, well, I'm 26 now, and by the time I'm finished this, I'll be 30.
Exactly.
So,
and it's true.
So that's how they look at it.
You just focus on the here and now, basically, don't you? It's quite similar, like you mentioned, obviously, in work, you try to look too far ahead. Whereas you're working on that, you're just trying to focus on the here and now. And that's the same with like relationships or breakdowns. focus on the here and now. Don't look too far ahead into the future. Because and basically, if you've got a problem, like if there's an issue lingering in your mind, you need to tackle it right now. Because, as I said, if you just leave it, it's like a water bottle. Perfect example, isn't it? I've not got a water. I do have a water bottle here. Actually, right now. So it's basically going to fill up, isn't it? If you get an issue, and it's just going to explode, isn't it? Pour. It's just going to bust.
It's really shake a cola bottle on that, and you take the lid off, and everything explodes.
Yeah.
So it's things eventually do come up to the surface, and I do think like as I say, you obviously emphasise this a lot when you're talking this, but you do need to talk about things because it's such a simple thing to say talk, because that's it. It's just words and just say things, but we don't talk because we think about everything else around us too much, and I think that's and the first time I did this podcast with you, in the first episode, the first episode I did with you, I found it quite daunting at first, but after I started talking, I realised that it's actually quite simple to talk. It's the fear that's the worst of it. It's just talking about our mind has got so much power over us at times. You talk about you've got the fear to do things. It holds you back so much because and I think I referenced this in the first episode as well. That my mum was always a big believer of just believing yourself, and she always told me that when I was younger. And even though I wasn't the most confident child when I was a boy, my mum would always kind of say to me, like, you're doing your spelling exams, things like that in school, and that she used to say to me, look, just believe in yourself, Thomas, and you'll do it. And just those words from my mum was enough to spur me on to actually go and do it. Nice. That just knowing there's someone behind you going, putting the hand on your shoulder, going, you'll be fine, you can do this. That's it.
Exactly.
So,
I'm not gonna lie, seen this podcast, people probably think, I think Mikey rambles on a lot of nonsense, but I'd rather ramble on nonsense and try and help somebody than no talk about it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, say it's rambling, but I mean, I don't think it is rambling. I think it's just there's a lot of emotions that come out. So especially when you're talking about something like this, it's never going to be as cohesive having like in one like you're not going to have it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then that's the subject one. So you're going to have things are going to come out, and you're going to speak about it because I've done the same, man. I'm not. You might come on here and you might speak to folk and sound like you know what you're talking about, everything, but you have to come out with how you're feeling. It might not come out the way you want it to, but it's how you're feeling, and and it was the same as I think we spoke about it a while ago. Foot changing the subject too much. We're talking about like these the DWP and places like that. They were scoring mental health on a system of like 1 to 10, and they spoke about the idea was. It was years and years ago that the plan was to get as many folk off this benefit because it was costing the government obviously X, Y, and Z. And the problem with it was that mental health and mental illness and all this doesn't fit into neat boxes. We don't have you can't fit, my life doesn't fit into a box, and neither does yours. Everything you've been through, everything I've been through, two different people, two different backgrounds, two different life experiences right there, and you can't fit that into a box to score you out of 10 and score me out of 10 because it doesn't work like that. It's not a competition. Yeah, it's not a game of football. You don't get scored on something. You've got what they used to do. I think it was 1 to 15 they used to do in a scoring system, and if this had happened, you get 3 points. If this had happened, you get 2 points. And if this had happened, you get 1 point. And that for me was where they were completely out of touch with the world that they lived in, because that is not how it worked. And obviously, as I'm saying to you about DWP, I was on employment support allowance at one point because I was in a really bad frame of mind, but I got scored 0 in my first one at 15. I never get 1 point for anything.
Mate, that's a joke, that whole system, but isn't it, like the way they work it?
Yeah.
So they're basically putting how you feel down on a bit of paper instead of seeing how you feel, isn't it?
Yeah, because the thing about the scoring sheet, from what I remember, and this is obviously going back probably about 7 years now, or 8 years, and there was a lot of the boxes were like physical health. If I broke my leg, and I think we spoke about this beforehand, and everyone's probably referenced this in some way in regards to mental health, but again, we need to say it again. It's because you've got people that, if I broke my leg and I didn't come into work the next day, I'd probably get 100 messages asking me why. Oh, are you okay? Is your leg okay? Are you feeling better? Blah blah. As we said before, if you can't physically see something, to some people that means it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, because that's how that structure was for their scoring system. It was, I could tell you how I'm feeling, but you don't see it, you don't feel it, so you don't believe it, and that's where the flaws lie, because their system was punished. The idea of the system was trying to get rid of the cheats. They were trying to, abuse the system. But what they ended up doing, ironically, was they managed to take the benefits of folk who actually did need it. There was one story I heard where a person who was refused employment support allowance, she was dying of cancer, and she wasn't even going to make it to the tribunal to contest it because she was going to die before that. That story always stuck with me because that woman she had terminal cancer. She didn't even get this pittance of money she was going to get because it wasn't a high amount of money. She wasn't even going to get that support, even going for chemotherapy for that. She was going to die, but she never got that temporary support. And this is going back to the stigma that we talk about. You've talked about yourself when you started this, when you made the point of speaking about that. That's the problem because, these people who work for an institution or company, whatever you want to call it, you think these were the people that would know and understand it, but they seem so out of touch. So you can understand why there's so many people out there that feel so lonely and that there's no one there. So yeah, that's that. And obviously I've strayed off that subject, but that was something I think I wanted to touch on the first episode because it happened to me and I went through it, and eventually I got kicked off. I get kicked off my ESA and that, and obviously things from there went on, did get better, but I needed that temporary support and I never got it. So
and as I say, it's a horrible illness, isn't it? Like, people can't see. It's, as you say, it's like a broken leg. How you doing? People can't see how you're feeling inside. It's just that stigma. Like, as for example, like people like touching back on what the episodes or trying to like help people, like the impact, the after effects it has on relationships or friendships. Like, you need to just check. You can't just go, "Oh, hope you're all right." Like, you need to just check up on it. I'm not saying persistently, but just need to act normal. Like, what annoys me is when something happens, people act different towards you. Like, you've probably experienced. I've experienced that in life before. If like something happens bad with you, like see when I came out about my problems and all that, like, and then a few months ago, I've had a few issues since about it, and it really, really annoys me because people feel as if they can just say whatever they want, and they don't realise the impact it's going to have on you if you say something. Like, the biggest, you probably hate it as well. See the petty hate people when you've come out and you tell people, "Oh, I'm feeling rubbish today," and they go, "Ah, you'll be alright, you've been through it before." That annoys me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That really, really bugs. People can probably see my face right now. I'm getting really angry and I'm trying, but it is true. Honestly, like,
no, absolutely.
It's not just that easy. You can't just go, "I'll be alright tomorrow, so better just forget about it now," because it really, really bugs me.
Yeah, I agree with it. I think, when also the reference in the relationship and that, when things had ended and I'm not going to reference names, but I have been questioned on things, and like people that people have kind of, said something, or just not anyone just specific, but just for me, it's you need someone to turn around and be supportive. No judgments. Turn around and say to you, "Look, like, you all right, mate? How you doing? How you feeling?" Get someone to just, as I said, just be there at that moment when you need them. And I think that people judging you for your decision sometimes is not what you need at the time.
No.
I think when you've went through such a hard emotional part of your life, where you've emotionally and mentally you're drained, and you're feeling pretty bad, as I was saying earlier on, and you're feeling like the worst person in the world at that time when things have ended and that, and then you've got people that don't support you, or they just judge you on the fact that they kind of, like, I don't know how to word it, they kind of project their life onto yours because if they're in the same situation you were, they wouldn't do the same thing. But you're not the same person. You're two different people, and it's simple to turn around your friend and just say, "How you doing, mate? How you feeling?" Doesn't matter what you think. Doesn't matter deep down if you thought that you had a different outlook on it. You just have to be supportive of your friends, and And as you said yourself about people that tell you to roll up your sleeves and just deal with situations is just the worst thing you could ever say to anyone, because that again makes you just feel as lonely as you did at the time. You know, someone telling you like,
it brings you down, doesn't it? And don't get me wrong,
absolutely,
you need a bit of tough love at times, but I feel as if there's tough love and there's just been an absolute dickhead. Excuse my language, but that's the best way to put it. And it's
that's true.
It's true. Like, honestly,
people like to folk like to have an opinion on things. You know, like folk like to say like,
I'm all
for
it. Yeah, I'm all for opinions, Thomas. But as you said, like there has to be a time when you know what someone's going through. You need to like be careful what you're saying as well, because you don't know how that could react to them, like physically getting angry, or it could just totally kill them. It could. It's true, isn't it? And that's the whole thing. We just need to be. I'm not trying to educate. I'm just trying to help people that are going through a hard time. This is the whole aim of this channel. I emphasise it every episode, but it's just very important to just be careful. Give the support to people all for 100%, but it's just what we say and our actions to folk. We have to educate ourselves in that as well. I still have to educate myself in that as well. Like I need to.
Yes, every day's a school day.
Yeah, it is exactly. We just have to like look after them. Like don't give it. I'm all for tough love at times, and I'd rather hear the truth than something that's just a lot of just basically try to make me feel alright. I'd rather hear the truth, because the truth does hurt. It's true, but we just need to nip it in the bud. But at the same time, we just need to be careful what we're saying to folk, so we don't realise the impact it could have on them, especially when they're going in that mindset. They've just come out maybe like a tough relationship or a breakdown in a friendship, a close friend or anything like that.
Yeah,
that's true.
Have you ever seen the Netflix series? I think it's called 13 Reasons Why.
I saw a trailer of it, mate. It actually came out that when I was going through a rough time, so I thought I try and stay away. Like, seeing you go through a rough time, like don't get on. See if you want to educate yourself on it and you're in the right headspace. Totally give it a watch, because I've not watched it, but I've heard about it. And
I watched the show in general. There's some things about the show I didn't like in that, but that's obviously for another day. What I was going to touch on was the theme of the show about the impact of the things that you say to people can have on them as a person, because that was the last in the show had she took her own life, and the 13 reasons why was all the different reasons that led up to that. Me personally, I thought the way she spoke in the show was far too I don't know how to explain that. I think she had a head. The way she was talking wasn't the space of someone who you would be in that kind of frame of mind. She was talking far too. Is it cohesive? Is the word? I don't know how to explain it. It was the way they portrayed it a wee bit. But one of the things that the theme of the show was that this girl had the impact from what folk had done to her led up to that moment. And as you said yourself about social media, people will say things that you might not think much of, but that impact that has on that person could be, as you said, could be life-threatening, because people can say something. I've had abuse in social media myself from people. Sometimes you get it. Usually football banter and stuff like that, folk can sometimes take things quite personal, and and you can be quite sarcastic, and these people can maybe go a bit to another stage, but which I'd keep myself away from that now. I don't actually tend to comment on things as much as I used to.
I've educated myself a lot in that as well. Don't get me wrong, there's bits where I tweet about the football and if I disagree with something, but see, when I was younger, I was quite guilty of going, he's a F and beating him, and so on. But now I'm like to myself, like I've learned as I've got older, like don't get me wrong, I can give somebody constructive criticism, but it's like personal, no. If they were personal to me, then I'd be personal back. Like that's the way. I just feel as if that's the only right way. The only time you should be personal to someone.
Well, I mean, personal remarks. I mean, like, well, we're all guilty of rising to certain scenarios. Like I've been guilty myself of sometimes, biting back and saying things that I wouldn't normally say if I sound head and that. So we all have done it at some point in life. And anyone who says it haven't probably would be lying that they've not said something personal. some things I said in the heat at the moment that we regret. And I've got regrets for things I've said in the past, and I've apologised. But sometimes an apology is just words at the end of the day. But you know, I tend to I deal with people who are nasty or toxic with sometimes sarcasm. I know my mum would always used to tell me that my gran used to say that that's the lowest form of wit, but I like sarcasm. I think sarcasm is a good way of dealing with some situations, especially, as I said, a toxic environment. But sometimes sarcasm is a bad thing because it can get you punched in the face. So you need to watch that too. That's not a personal experience, by the way. I'm just saying, don't be too sarcastic. But yeah, but yeah, like you're saying, man. I mean, we go back onto like social media and that, and not social media, but in general, when you talk to someone or say something, you have to. Sometimes your words can really have an impact. That doesn't mean walking eggshells for your whole entire life. Don't say things because you're scared that you might have upset someone. But I'm just being like, you just have to watch the impact you have on social media, and we've all been subjected somewhere. I mean, if you've ever had an Xbox or a PlayStation, anyone who's watches had an Xbox or PlayStation, you've probably been threatened by someone in America before who says he's going to come over here.
Definitely. I've had my throat getting slit. I've had, and also honestly, like it's some of the people you come across in that, you're like, right, they don't mean that. They're just speaking in turn because they've just been absolutely hammered at me or FIFA probably. But don't want to brag or anything. But
I've had the things in Call of Duty years ago when folk would be like, like some 12-year-old threatening you, says, "Where do you live?" And I'm like, "I live in Scotland." I says, "Which address?" and all that, and you're just like, "No, like I'm just about to jump the plane." I says, "You're actually going to jump the plane right now just to come over and see me." I said, "I'm flattered." You're just like,
I know.
It's just you get that's a part of that's a kind of part of social media in itself, because behind a keyboard you do have a lot more confidence that you would have. I mean, there's things I've said on social media that I probably would not have said to that person's face when I'm being sarcastic or something like that. And
we are all guilty of we've done it at some point in our life,
We shouldn't do, and I know probably shouldn't do, but I take the point of keyboard warriors, because there's a lot of the people that I'm an opinionated person, and I'm quite vocal about that. I'm an opinionated person. I do have a lot of. I tend to probably take that off my mum a wee bit, but I just have that side of me where I'll just sometimes just say what I think. Sometimes it's for the better, or sometimes it's for the worse. Some people might disagree with me. Some people might disagree with me. It's all one, but sometimes it's just good to have. Sometimes it's good to have someone who just stands up and goes, "Look, I'm not happy with that." And you're talking about like relationships and friendships and that. It's the same with friendships as well. If you've got an issue with your friend, sometimes it's better just to come around and just say, "Look, I've got an issue with this," and deal with it head on, because once you've dealt with it, then you can move on from it. Whereas if you don't, going back to we're talking about like things build up, it festers, and it kind of creates a toxic kind of like. It's obviously there's the whole passive aggressive. Sorry.
A toxic environment, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like things come out kind of passive aggressive, if that makes sense. If people don't want to say things directly, they'll do it in a roundabout way.
Yeah, exactly.
Which for me is something I don't like. I don't like people who do things a roundabout way. I just rather someone told me if they had an issue with me, and it might be a bit hard to hear sometimes, but I would rather they told me. It's hard sometimes when you hear someone might tell you, "I didn't like how you did this," and I've made mistakes in the past where my friends have told me I should have done that, I should have done this, and I'm like, the next day you're quite apologetic, and you're like, I should have done that. So yeah, but it's good to say, it's good to have your opinion and things, and just say how you feel at the time. But yeah, I don't want to go off too off the subject, because we seem to do that quite a bit.
No. Me and you, see, every time I get you on, honestly, you're going to get my podcast shut down, Thomas. No, but I appreciate you see the day. You've done a great job, mate, and obviously it must have been difficult, because I know it's obviously the dust hasn't really settled yet with it all. But
no,
I think you've been respectful. I don't think you've been you've not said anything malicious at all. You've just shared your thoughts and feelings on everything. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what it is, man. It's good. I think it's good. Like I said, things are quite fresh, and it has been tough to talk about things and that. And one day down the line, maybe we'll be able to talk a bit better about things. But as I said, you say with respect. I think you have been as well. It's good. It's a touchy subject at the time, as it is. It's quite fresh, but it is still good to talk about things and have some kind of because I think not talking goes against everything I've learned over the past year, because that's, you know, I'm 29, and I think that, as I said to you earlier on, like your early 20s to now is a big difference. The things you learn, you just need to make sure you learn from them and you don't repeat them. It's easier said than done, but we've all done it, I suppose. So
yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. And what you've went through the last wee while, it can maybe help someone that's watching just now also. And I feel as if that probably what I've shared today as well about my personal point of view is maybe probably somebody could probably relate to it. But if anyone, as I said, if anyone maybe didn't agree with some of the things I've said, they can talk to me about it. I'd like listen. As I say, I don't mind getting maybe criticised with something I've maybe said that's maybe not been in a correct term. I don't mean anything bad by anything I said today. I'm just trying to give my honest opinion on everything. Because, as I say, this is the first time I've done what I think basically a relationship, friendship episode, and after effects on the mind that it has. So probably a few home truths might have come out today, but as I said, that's all it is. It is the truth at the end of the day. No, but I appreciate you, mate. I appreciate you coming on today and sharing everything. It's been good to have you on again.
I really appreciate having me on as well. It's been good to talk again, and it's, as you said, it's good to have it's good that you've got the platform now to talk about things more, and you know, obviously the first couple of episodes you're starting to get to know more folk, and you've also had a couple of folk on already. You know, there's so much, you know, but our lives are so like bloated with things that go on. There's so many different subjects we could talk about in a day, and when we did that first episode, I felt that we had a lot of things we could have covered, we did cover, but we don't want to, like, you know, we can be here for 3-4 hours talking about all problems. But no, it's good. I agree, man. I think it's really good, and like I said, I do appreciate you having me on today and that, and it's been good. Apart from last night, obviously that was a bad night for me and you with the football, but it's been a good Sunday. It's been a beautiful Sunday.
It's been good. It has been very beautiful outside and all, but I appreciate you coming on again, Thomas. It's been very good to have you, and thanks everyone for watching episode 5 of Every Mind Matters. Myself, Mikey Doak, and Thomas Higgins, and I'll hopefully see you again very soon. As I said many times before, anyone feeling the experience similar to Thomas, or if anyone's feeling they need to chat to someone, they're feeling isolated, or they're feeling a bit down about themselves, drop me a DM or drop Thomas a DM. He'll be sure to help you out as well. He's been good with myself also, helping the channel grow. So, as I say, once again, thanks for coming on, Thomas.
Yep, thanks very much. Pleasure as always.
Thanks very much. Take care of yourselves. Well, alright, see you after, folks.
See you later.
Yeah.